I'm Dr. Margario.
And I'm Dr. Scott. Welcome to Messy Things You Can Do to Annoy Your Parents.
Today we're going to teach you how to make oobleck.
Now, oobleck is a non-Newtonian fluid. Now, a non-Newtonian fluid is sort of like particles, tiny particles like sand or something like cornstarch that's suspended in a liquid like water. You can kind of think of this as a piggy bank, where the piggy bank is the water, and the particles are all like pennies. Now, when you put one in at a time, they all flow, and they all flow smoothly, kind of like water. But if you try and put them all in the piggy bank at one time, they'll get stuck and act like a solid. They won't be able to move.
So to make oobleck, you need cornstarch, some water, and something to put it in. For this experiment, we put food dye in the water just to add color for it. Okay, so we're going to take a little bit of cornstarch, and you're going to need more cornstarch than you put water. So.
And so we're going to use the whole container here. You need the spoon?
Right. Okay.
And then just a little bit less water than the cornstarch. Let's see how that works.
And then you're going to
Mix
use
it with
your
your hands.
hands.
Okay, you gotta make sure you mix it real well. Get all the sides here. And as I'm mixing it, it's getting thicker, sort of like quicksand. And that's sort of what this is a little miniature quicksand. Okay.
Okay, so we put the oobleck in a plate. That way it would be easier for both of us to work with. So to start out, one thing that's really cool about oobleck is that you can put something like a medicine cap on it and it'll float. But if you take something like a spoon, it'll sink. Something really cool.
And then with the spoon as well, you try and pull it up, it gives a little resistance. See how it kind of lifted it up there? Let's see if I can do it again. Yeah, there you go.
Cool.
It tries to pull up the plate as well. Another cool thing, if this were water or another liquid, I would be able to punch it right here and it would splatter and get all over Gina here. So I'm going to see what happens if I punch it. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm kind of scared.
Are those clothes old? I don't want them to get dirty.
No, but we can try it. And
Okay, so here I go punching it. Okay, and it didn't splatter. Even though it's a liquid, you can see that it's a liquid. Okay, also, you can sort of scoop it up here, and it can act as a liquid. And when you've got it in your hand, and you feel it, it feels sort of like Play-Doh or something similar.
Also, if you put it on something like it's getting on the towel, it dries and it hardens, which I think that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. So it becomes more of a solid then.
Because the towel, or any type of terry cloth, or also paper towels, it will absorb all the water and leave just the cornstarch. And so if you leave it there long enough, it'll dry out to be just the cornstarch. So this is a slightly different viscosity of oobleck. We've taken some of the water out, and you can do that just with paper towels. The paper towels will absorb just the water and leave the rest of the cornstarch. So this is a little bit denser, maybe 1 part water to 5 or 6 parts cornstarch. I can punch it, and it's nothing, but if I punch it and leave my hand there for a little while, and then try and lift it up, it lifts the whole plate up. Okay? So that's this viscosity.
Okay, so like Dr. Scott said, viscosity is the thickness of something. Thus, water is thin, having a lower viscosity, while honey is thick, having a higher viscosity. So, to put it in simple terms, the less viscous the fluid is, the greater it is the ease of movement. So one thing that's cool about Oobleck is it can be formed into whatever you put it in. So if you put it in this plastic bag, it'll go in the plastic bag and fit to the shape of the plastic bag. But when you take it back out, it doesn't stay in the same shape as the plastic bag. Also, another thing is that if you put it in the sun, which we'll do later after we're done playing with it inside, it'll get really sticky. And if you put it in the sun, the color will start to evaporate, and it'll get really hard like cement. But on the bottom, it'll be kind of jelly-like. Another thing with Oobleck is that it doesn't bounce. So if you mold it into a ball and try to put it down, it doesn't bounce. Another thing is that you could walk on it. So if we had a really big container and we put it in the container, you could actually walk on it and you wouldn't sink if you go fast enough. But unfortunately, we don't have a really big container to do that with, so we're going to show a video of that.
So what we want you guys to do is take your samples and just kind of play around with them. See if you can move around, see what happens if you try and roll it into a ball, if you can keep it in a shape.